Hey guys, it's Bethany K with another photography tutorial. In the first 3 videos of this series, I showed you how you can use your f-stop, shutter, and ISO to take control of your exposure in manual mode. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can get a clean white image by using the right white balance. And then I'm going to show you how to get the perfect exposure and white balance after you've already taken your picture by shooting and editing in RAW. Okay, so now that you're familiar with controlling your f-stop, shutter speed, and ISO in manual mode, let's talk about white balance. White balance is an important setting you'll need to be familiar with because it affects the colors in your picture. If you're shooting in the shade or on a cloudy day, your pictures are all going to have a blue cast to them. You won't notice the blue cast in person because your eyes will always adjust to the colors around you. Avoid coming home with a batch of blue-toned images by flipping the white balance setting over to cloudy day for warmer, more vibrant pictures. On the flip side, shooting indoors often casts an orange glow on all of the pictures, which can be fixed by knowing your white balance options. This is the perfect example of switching from an incorrect white balance to the correct white balance right on your camera. Check your camera's user guide to find the button that changes your white balance options. The settings will correspond to the type of light you're shooting in, such as sunlight, shade, cloudy day, and incandescent lighting. There's also an option for auto white balance, but it's similar to shooting in auto mode in that different colors in the room can throw off its measurement, so you can end up with several different white balances from a shoot. So recognize when you're moving indoors or when the sun comes out from behind the clouds and be ready to make the white balance change. If none of the settings are looking quite right, you can create a custom white balance that's specific to the setting you're shooting in by taking a picture of something white that fills up the entire frame. It may be useful to bring a white card along with your gear for this purpose. Then find out where to choose the custom white balance in your camera's menu and set the picture of your white card as the standard for your camera to go off. Now, after everything we've learned, if your exposure or white balance isn't perfect, you can easily adjust nearly everything about your picture with editing software if you shoot in RAW. So let's talk about what a RAW file is versus a JPEG file on your camera. Check your user guide to find the menu option where you'll be able to change the quality of your images from JPEG to RAW. A RAW file stores much more of the picture's information than a JPEG file, which allows you to dramatically change the exposure or white balance of an image even after it's been captured. When your camera shoots in JPEG, on the other hand, it will compress the image before it even gets written to the card, making it much more difficult to make changes after it's been captured. The only downside is that RAW files are much larger, so you'll need bigger memory cards if you're shooting in RAW. Here's an example of how you can save your images after you capture them by shooting in RAW. During this wedding ceremony, the wedding party was walking down the aisle in full harsh sunlight and then in complete shadow as they walked away down the aisle. If a photographer is trying to capture them both coming and going, it's nearly impossible to change the settings fast enough to capture both exposures back to back. Shooting in RAW is a lifesaver in this scenario because it stores so much more than one exposure of your image, so you can easily make adjustments to the image after it's been taken. RAW editing software is included with most cameras, and several free versions can be downloaded on the internet. Using these programs, you'll be able to change things like white balance, exposure, highlights and shadows, vibrance, sharpness, and much more. And with the click of a button, your changes can be applied to a whole batch of images at once. Shooting in RAW gives you the ability to make dramatic changes to your picture without sacrificing the quality of the image. So let's recap the difference between a RAW file versus a JPEG file on your camera. A RAW file stores more of the picture's information than even the largest JPEG file, and it makes it much easier to change the exposure of the picture after it's been captured. The files are much larger, and you'll need more storage space if you're shooting in RAW. You'll be able to adjust anything about the image in a program like Lightroom or Adobe Camera Raw, and then convert them to a JPEG to burn them to CDs or upload them to the web. Using RAW files makes for quick and easy batch adjustments on the exposure, white balance, and tons of other properties on your images before they become JPEGs and lose that extra information. When your camera shoots in JPEG, on the other hand, it will compress the image before it ever gets written to the card, losing much of its information. So hopefully this tutorial helps you start getting more clean, high-quality photos with your DSLR camera. Make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for the next video where I'm going to talk about how to choose the right lenses for the type of photography you'll be doing. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.